Welcome to this episode of our program Arab Affairs. As usual, we will be speaking about some of the Arab files. Today we'll be speaking about two topics. The first is the President's receiving to the Saudi Crown Prince at the Red Sea resort of Sharm El Sheikh, in which the President welcomed the Saudi Crown Prince, stressing the distinguished and solid relations between both countries, and noting that the meeting focused on very important issues, including, of course, the regional and international issues of mutual concerns, the challenges that are facing the whole region, and boosting the Arab common work. We'll be speaking about that in our first part. In the second one, we'll be speaking about the fifth high meeting of the heads of the African constitutional courts here in Cairo, who are focusing on four main points. We'll be speaking about that in our other half of this episode. Before we delve into our discussion, first let's have a quick look on the Arab news that took place during this week, and we'll come back for more discussion.
Minister of Defense and Military Production General Mohammad Zaki returned home on Thursday after a short visit to Jordan. Zaki and his accompanying delegation attended a celebration marking the first centenary of the foundation of the Hashemite Kingdom, along with top military brass from other Arab countries. The minister conveyed President Abdel Fattah Sisi's greetings to Jordanian King Abdullah II and the people on the occasion. Egypt exceptionally kept open its Rafah border crossing on both sides upon President Abdel Fattah Sisi's directives. The move was intended to allow wounded Palestinians in critical cases to cross into Egypt for treatment and also allow humanitarian and construction supplies into the strip. A shelling on the opposite-held Idlib Syrian enclave killed 12 people on Thursday. The incident started with rocket fire near the village of Iblin, which lies around 25 kilometers southwest of the city of Idlib. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said that 4 were killed in the shelling, which took place near the line separating regime forces from the opposition-held enclave. The Saudi-led coalition fighting Houthi militia in Yemen said on Thursday it had stopped carrying out attacks there in order to pave the way for a peaceful settlement. A coalition spokesman said that no military operation had been carried out in the vicinity of Sana'a or any other Yemeni cities in the past period. The statement comes amid growing diplomatic efforts for a ceasefire agreement after more than 6 years of devastating conflict. Abu Dhabi is to bring the new COVID rules from the next Tuesday that will require less frequent testing to access public places for those who have been fully vaccinated. All residents of the largest of the 7 emirates that make up the United Arab Emirates have been provided with a color-coded app detailing their testing and vaccination history. From next week, only those with green status will be allowed entry to shopping malls and large supermarkets, gyms, hotels, parks, beaches and swimming pools, entertainment venues, cinemas, museums and restaurants and cafes, according to the Abu Dhabi Media Office. People who have been fully inoculated will maintain their green status for 30 days after their last negative PCR test, while those who have not been vaccinated will maintain it just for 3 days.
Right, welcome back. And to highlight the visit of the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to Egypt and his meeting with President Abdel Fattah Sisi, we have with us over the phone Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi. Ambassador Bayoumi, good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon, how are you?
Fine, thank you so much. Your Excellency, we're speaking here about a visit that was described by the presidential spokesman as a brotherly visit, or the brotherly meeting. How do you read such a meeting at this very, or the timing of such a visit?
Very important. It seems that there was something to be discussed in a sort of a quick consultation and emergency consultation about issue here or issue there. And of course, between the two brotherly countries, there are a lot to be discussed, especially what's going on nowadays in Yemen, in Libya, in Lebanon or Syria, all over the area. And of course, we are committed, both countries, to combat the organized crime, whether it is terrorism, whether it is illegal migration, money laundering, and drug trafficking. And of course, the whole world is keen to solve many, many problems. During the meeting between our president and the Crown Prince of the Arabia Saudi, there was a parallel meeting of the largest 7 countries in London. And of course, I think
the G7, yes.
G7, yes. And I think the two leaders may have discussed something about this, because such a meeting, I called the board of directors of the world, and it was always very important to us, and we always send messages to such a meeting about our remarks. Take the Palestinian question, of course, it is coming in the middle of everything nowadays, and I think it is one very important subject between the two leaderships. So many things has to be discussed. And it's not strange that Egypt and Saudi Arabia and many Arab countries are in good connection nowadays in order to exchange views, in order to face any threat to our security, and on the same time to find more and more fields in our cooperation. Don't forget the Saudis are one of the largest investors in Egypt. Our trade with Arabia Saudi is getting better and better. Our trade balance is in favor of Egypt, and many things can be discussed in a meeting like that.
Yes. Your Excellency, when we are speaking here about Egypt and Saudi Arabia, we're speaking about two regional powers. Two important regional powers and very effective strength. When we are speaking about a common vision towards the issues or the developments in the region, as you said, respectively, here the G7 are meeting in the United Kingdom, in Britain, and we are aware that the G7 is always taking into account some of the world developments at large. How far do you think two regional powers as Egypt and Saudi Arabia would send a message of how Arab common work would for the stability and security of the region?
Always we used to say the G7 since it was established. I think the very good relations by time between President Sadat and him. I remember myself, I was involved to send messages to Helmut Schmidt when the G7 were taking place in Tokyo. So we are doing this since then. And it's not us only who are keen to send our views to such a meeting. They are interested to ask us, because Egypt or the Arabia Saudi are very important power in their region. And like always I say, anybody who is dealing with the Middle East, he must start by knocking the door of Egypt. So it is usual to consult such leaderships. Our president was lately in Paris. I think one of the subjects was to give his views, what we can tell the G7. And now we have new leadership in the United States. Of course, we have to give them good views of Egypt and the region. And thank God that we have good listeners to the Egyptian points of view and the Egyptian policy, it is respectable. It is always going towards more stability in the region and the world, more efforts for the development and the economic development especially. And this is, by the way, one part of the discussion between Egypt and the Saudi Arabia, because both of us members are League of Arab States, members in the Arab Free Trade Area. The trade between the two countries is going quite well.
Mm-hmm. Ambassador Bayoumi, the region and the whole world are going through many developments. We're speaking here about very critical situations and very quick developments with the change or with the geopolitical changes that is taking place worldwide, new alliances, new interests. How far is boosting Arab common work has become a must and a necessity in order to be able to preserve the interests of the region and the existence of each state?
The Arab cooperation in general is going quite well. The Arab League is doing its work, but we do not deny or we do not neglect that many Arab countries are not in good health. What is happening in Syria annoys us. What's happening in Lebanon, in Libya, even in Sudan. We are keen to give our advice and our efforts in order to settle all these problems here and there. But the mainstream of the Arab League, depending on the largest Arab country, which is Egypt, and the most economic power in the region, Arabia Saudi, is very important. I must say that the Arab Emirate is not far from this, or Kuwait, or other countries. The Maghreb, Algeria, or Tunisia, although also they have their internal engagement. But the mainstream of the Arab world policies is going quite well, and we have one voice in the Arab world concerning many of the files we are discussing. I repeat that I think strongly that any power who is dealing with the Middle East should listen quite well to the Arab League in general and to Egypt and to the Arabia Saudi especially.
When we speak about Egypt and the role of Egypt, Egypt has been playing a great role, particularly during the recent years. It was described as an accepted mediator in many of the Arab circles and problems. How do you view the role Egypt has been playing, and how important is it for Egypt to gather a kind of united Arab stance towards the crises that are facing the region?
Thank God, as an old diplomat, I am highly satisfied of the developments in Egypt in the last 7 years. Because, diplomacy, after all, has tools to use it in its relations everywhere. We use the ambassadors, the ambassadorial level, we use the ministerial level, but for more than 15 years before the revolution, we were not able to use the largest weapon of our diplomacy, which is the presidential weapon. If I give one example, that our president in New York last year, he met 40 leaders in 3 days. This gives us how important the movement of our president, and of course it solves a lot of problems much more quicker, much more efficiently, going to Tokyo twice and to Paris in the middle in a couple of weeks, going to New York up and going down to Africa, in countries where you cannot live. I was non-resident ambassador in one country in Africa because it was impossible to be resident. President Sisi went there and he established Egyptian embassy, and now we have direct relations. So this is a huge effort. We were representing the continent in the Security Council. We were sharing the African Union, and during this 1 year of chairmanship, we established a larger, much larger free trade area of 50 countries instead of the committee of 21 countries. Our trade with Africa is increasing, and the trade balance is in our favor, and we are keen to do more than that. We are bringing investors to Africa with the Egyptian experience, which is the most acceptable face in Africa. We have a traditional experience in Africa, and I enjoyed this very much, working in many places in Africa, that if you say the ambassador of Egypt, it means something everywhere. So I am happy that now we are enjoying this position again, and we thank God we have a very active presidency going everywhere in the exact timing.
Ambassador Yumi, Egypt has been working on two spheres, Egypt as part of the Middle East and Egypt as part of Africa. Definitely Egypt is in North Africa. Egypt has been playing a great role since the foundation of the African Unity Council, now the African Union, and Egypt has been playing as the core of both regions. On the sidelines of, or in parallel with the president meeting with the Saudi Crown Prince, there is also this African Investment Conference that is taking place also at the Red Sea resort of Sharm El Sheikh. How important is that a conference that is taking place in Sharm El Sheikh, and how is it a step towards propagating the interests of Africa and promoting for opportunities here in Africa?
The conference in Sharm El Sheikh is one example about the multi-efforts of Egypt in many fields. Investment is one of them. I meet all over the year in several occasions Africans making training in Egypt, whether military ones. Lately I was in Nasser Academy seeing 30 high-level officials from 22 African countries came here for a couple of months in order to be trained in Nasser Academy. Here we are exchanging experience and views concerning investment, because as I said, Africa is in a bad situation concerning investment with the other world. The money flow from Africa to the developed part of the world is much more than the flow of money from the developed world to Africa, and we are trying to change this position. And thank God that we had good listeners in the European Union. They accept to being attracted to investment in Africa with the Egyptian investment. Lately we did this in Russia during the visit of our Minister of International Cooperation. We did that also with China and with Japan. So I hope this such an effort will help the field of investment. And investment, it means more flow of money, more creating jobs, and then it means more trade also. And we have to make sure that everybody realizes that now the Africa Free Trade Area is the largest market in the world, 1,200 million inhabitants. On the other side, Egypt is trying to make Africa do its homework, because foreign direct investment is not just you call foreign direct investment to come and they come easily. No, there are a lot of obstacles where we have to visit them and to stop it. Bureaucracy in Africa is a huge obstacle. The banking system needs to be ameliorated. Transport is not in good terms, whether it is maritime or airway traffic or roads. This all has to be visited. That's why we have such a conference, and to discuss how the investment laws are drafted here and there, because also investment laws are very important, and we have an old and traditional experience there. We do that in investment, we do that in trade. Our president met a couple of days ago the Secretary General of the large Africa Free Trade Area, because trade also is the other hand which will help us in Africa. And of course, I think that there are many fields in this concern, such as education. We are educating a lot of African people. Al-Azhar al-Sharif is hosting tens of thousands of African students. So, name it, in all fields we are trying to help the continent. Also, I must mention here before I finish, the traditional annual meeting between Arab countries and African countries, which is led by the Arab League, and we use the Arab League also in order to encourage bringing investment to African countries, even to Ethiopia, because we want Ethiopia to realize that good relations would lead them to better situation than being stubborn politically. So, inshallah, we are doing our best, and this will lead to even good results.
Ambassador Bayoumi, you pinpointed your finger on a very important issue, which is how Arab-African relations should be developing, or should be in this upcoming stage. How far, we are aware that the Arab countries are aware of the potentials of Africa, and they have started to invest in Africa already. How far do you think that Egypt, as is a Middle East African country, can play a role in boosting the Arab-African relations and going them into another horizons of cooperation? How do you view the role Egypt has been playing in this context?
It is simply, first, we are promoter for Africa, whether for trade or investment. Second, although Egypt is a recipient country or not a donor, but we are a donor in Africa and in the Arab world. And we have traditionally the Egyptian Fund for Development in Africa. I used to have more than 70 Egyptian experts in many fields where I was in Africa. Now the fund became an agency for partnership and investment in Africa, but I really think that we have to increase the capital of such agency, and that's why we are asking the help of our partners in Europe and in China, in Russia, everywhere, because we lack the finance. But Egypt has experience and at the same time has the role of a promoter, because we know Africa better than anybody else.
Here we are speaking about a meeting between the President and the Saudi Crown Prince. We're also speaking about an investment, an important investment forum or conference that is taking place in Sharm El Sheikh. But we're also speaking here in Egypt about another important meeting that is taking place, which is the 5th high-level meeting between the African heads of constitutional courts. And they are speaking about four main important files: combating terrorism, digital transformation, healthcare after the corona pandemic, and green economy. And all are related to the challenges that are facing the continent and the region at large. How far are those important files on the prior files that Egypt has been working on? We're speaking about combating terrorism, we're speaking about health, we're speaking about digital transformation, we're speaking about the green economy. We're speaking about very important files that are very much into the vision of Egypt. How far do you see Egypt going into such files, putting them as priorities, and at the same time helping and boosting the rest of the region and the continent in order to be able to cope with that?
This is one more field where we have good cooperation with Africa. The legal aspect of everything, and if you start any effort, you have to start legally to put the lines and to put the border of your efforts. And I think this is very good in order to make Africa and Africans aware of what is going on, and we want to make a sort of harmony between the rules and the regulation and the laws in the continent within the large free trade area in order to make an investor or a businessman work and travel smoothly between one African country and the other, even the Arab world also. Mm-hmm. I want to stress that there are also other fields of cooperation. I want here, because of the meeting of the Royal Crown Prince of Saudi, that the Islamic Bank, which is owned mainly by Arabia Saudi, is spending billions of dollars in investments in many African countries with the help of Egypt, and direct investment is taking place in many African countries. Yes. So this is another very important field where we are cooperating, and I expect that this can be repeated in many other fields. Take even tourism, take industry, take small and medium-sized projects, take combating, as you rightly said, combating the organized crime, whether it is money laundering, illegal migration, drug trafficking, and terrorism. And thank God that Egypt has a very, very good reputation everywhere concerning its efforts in these fields. And one good partner, which is the European Union, is praising what is Egypt doing. The American president twice called our president in order to congratulate Egypt in its efforts to stop violence in Palestine. And really, yes, Egypt is doing fine. And I think we have a lot to give to Africa in this concern.
Yes, very much indeed. Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister, Your Excellency, thank you so much for being with us over the phone. And now we go to this report. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has been decorated with the highest Arab decoration or medal for influential Arab leaders. Let's watch this report.
The Arab Parliament awarded President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi the Leader Medal for his efforts in resolving regional issues. Presidency spokesman Bassam Radi said that President al-Sisi received Speaker of the Arab Parliament Adil al-Assoumi, originally member of the Bahraini Council of the Representatives, in Al-Ittihadiyya Presidential Palace, where the handing of the medal took place. The medal is the highest award given by the Arab Parliament to chiefs of state, and the timing is intertwined with the success of Egypt in brokering a ceasefire in Gaza Strip between the Israelis and Palestinians. In addition to the development endeavors of the country has undertaken under the leadership of President al-Sisi, positively impacting all aspects of life and setting an Arab development model. The President asked Al-Asumi to extend his greetings to King Hamad bin Isa of Bahrain and expressed appreciation for the Arab Parliament whose stances have been supportive of Egyptian national security. The President said that he is looking forward to bolstering cooperation with the Arab Parliament to serve the joint interests of both the country and the Parliament. The meeting was attended by Minister of Foreign Affairs Sameh Shoukry and Egyptian Speaker of House of Representatives Hanafi al-Gibali. Participants exchanged views on empowering the Arab Observatory for Human Rights, which shall communicate the Arab viewpoint on human rights to human rights organizations around the world. In an interview, the Arab Parliament President Al-Asumi said that the leader's order, which was granted by the Parliament to President Sisi, was offered to heads of state for their great efforts to serve the Arab world. He underlined that President Sisi comes at the top of those who played a key role in serving the Arab world in the hardest circumstances. He said that President Sisi worked hard for the security and stability of many Arab countries and stood in the face of foreign interference in the Arab affairs. Al-Asumi also asserted that President Sisi is a seasoned and unique leader who managed to maintain the progress of the Egyptian economy despite the hard international economic conditions over the coronavirus pandemic. He added that President Sisi was devoted to serve Arab issues taught by the Palestinian cause, referring to his efforts to clinch the Palestinian-Israeli ceasefire. Al-Asumi also cited President Sisi's efforts with regard to the Libyan file. He said that the leader's order represented a morale support and appreciation in the name of the Arab people to President Sisi, who is not only an Egyptian leader, but an Arab leader.
Right, that takes us to the end of this episode of Arab Affairs. Next Saturday would be other Arab files. Until next Saturday, it's goodbye.